Hey everybody, what's going on? Happy Thursday night to you and yours. We are here with my guest tonight, the one and only Mr. Andre Comeau from MTV's Real World. I can't wait to talk to him. But before I tell everybody about Andre's experiences back in the day and today, I got to tell you about Bombers and Sleeves. They are our official sponsor, and they are the lifestyle apparel brand, and they're dedicated to bringing you the war on self doubt. This is for the bold, the fearless, and the authentic souls who never back down and they wear it all on their sleeves. Bomb your boundaries and shop Bombers and Sleeves today at bombersandsleeves.com. So, without further ado, the man who was on everybody's TV screen 29 years ago, and guess what? He's back, and I want to know if he's more surprised than we are that he's back.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, I wasn't too it's weird. I had a weird impression of the show for many years. Something, the subsequent seasons of Real World and what reality TV became and ultimately turned into had very much colored my perception of the show that I was even on. And it wasn't until recently that when we were in negotiations to be in a part of this reunion, that I actually dug out the copies of the original series that I had not watched since its original airing in 1992. And I watched it from beginning to end, and I was so pleasantly surprised by the quality of the show, the quality of the sort of conversations that we were having, and how substantive everything was, rather than just kind of fluff and kind of a surface. Not that I really thought that's what we did, but memory had a way of sort of tainting the actual memory of it a little bit. And so I was really pleasantly surprised when I watched it and realized, this is actually pretty good. Who
You
knew?
know, that's the funny thing. Like, so if people don't know, right now the original cast of MTV's Real World is back. The seven of them, we'll say seven. I'm not going to go into. I don't want to expose stuff, but the seven of them are back, and they they intertwine the old clips with new clips, and it really, like, I got to say this, like, watching that first episode and seeing those old clips, 30 years later, I said to myself, wow, like, it's a lot different now being that 21-year-old kid watching it on my sister's couch, now being a 50-year-old person and looking at it and saying how relevant it was then and relevant it is still now 30 years later, but yet still very, and this is, the funny thing was literally 3 o'clock this morning, me and my fiance are in bed and we were like, oh my God, the new episode's out. So we had to watch it.
So you watched the newest one?
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing,
you're up to date.
I'm up to date. And the thing I said after watching that is, you can truly see, and you didn't realize it as we were kids watching, fellow kids, but you guys were truly educated. And when we're all kids, it doesn't come on off that way, but you can see the true education of all of you in a different way.
Well, we were very experienced. There's no doubt about it. We were not even the youngest of us was really sharp. Julie, Julie was sharp as a tack at 19, and I think that we all had our life. We all had vast life experience that we brought to the table. Just moving into the loft, and I think that we brought unique perspectives, each of us having that life experience and our own perspective. I would say that certainly It's funny how time changes some things and some things not so much, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I don't want to give away too much, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you'll see when you watch the this season, anyways.
Now, all right, let's rewind. Let's go back. I want to know like some origins, like the whole thing. Like, um, when you originally found out about this and auditioned for the whole process, what were you under the assumption of that you were trying out for?
Well, when so I received a phone call. How it all played out was um, MTV, the casting directors at Buna Murray were going around to where young people worked and congregated at sort of cool, you know, I guess now it would have been tech companies. But back then it was record companies and radio stations and places like that. And that's where they were going to meet possible candidates for the show. And my older sister, worked for EMI Records
Okay.
in the promotions department. And one of her friends literally just sort of recommended me to the casting director, who then spoke to my sister, and Colette is her name. She said, "Yeah, I'm sure Andre'd be interested. Give him a call," and gave the casting director my number. I received the phone call, and the pitch was, "Would you be interested in a documentary style experimental television show that featured your lives and your band?" And of course, yeah, of course I'll do that. It's on the network that speaks directly to our generation,
Mm-hmm.
as nothing else did at the time, and still kind of nothing. It's so strange how powerful MTV was, and still is, but uh, nothing spoke to Gen X the way that MTV did. Nothing. And
True.
when something tried to speak to Gen X, it fell flat.
Mm-hmm.
They really had Gen X. They had the ear of Gen X, and so it's interesting when they reached out to me. I was thrilled. A documentary style TV show that featured me and my band on the only music network that speaks to my generation. Sure.
Sold.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was already living in New York. Yeah, or New Jersey. Um, I was, my band had a house in just in New Brunswick, which is about
Okay.
40 minutes outside the city. And we were playing the New York metro area for a whole year beforehand. We had actually moved out a year to the day um, that I moved into the loft. We moved to the New York area from Detroit, where we're all
Right.
originally from.
Now, do you think that was like the major selling point was to put your band over
For
at the
me,
time?
yeah,
Yeah.
for me, that
Yeah.
was really, that was everything to me at the
Sure.
time. I mean, my life really revolved around my band at that time.
Now, I want to phrase out there too. Like, it's funny. Like when I was watching the first few episodes and seeing the old clips of you, I instantly thought to myself, and I don't know if you're familiar with this band or not, but I was like, wow, like Andre. Now looking at Andre reminds me of Andrew Wood from Mother Love Bone.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they were great. They were great. Very, it's funny how Seattle's music scene was really taking hold,
Mm-hmm.
and really was the most powerful movement in music at that time. And our look at the time really, we got associated with that
Sure.
movement, but really our sound was much more Midwestern. We had much more in common with bands like The Replacements and Soul Asylum than we did with Soundgarden and Nirvana. Although we were, we had our heavy music. It definitely was rooted in a more Midwestern Americana style that became more prevalent as our albums went on. We made 3 records, and
Nice.
each one got more rootsy and less heavy. And as funny as that is, now I make the heaviest music I've ever made in my life. And
Which I was surprised by. We're going to get into the music too.
Yeah, it's funny how it came full circle. But yeah, we'll get into that in good time.
Sure. So, okay. So you end up, you pass the audition. You're part of the cast. You end up in the loft, and cameras start rolling. Things start going. Like, was there a point early on you say to yourself, "What the hell? What did I get myself into?" You just like, you guys really had no idea what you were getting yourself into.
Correct. We were very much in the dark, but I got friendly with the crew and the directors. They were a little older than me, but they were very much kind of that older brother, older sisters kind of situation, and that put me at ease. I think that and to be honest, I enjoyed all of the cast, so we were kind of all in it together. So I think that any sort of discomfort was eased by the time I met everyone, and kind of, and I was pretty adventurous even at a young age like that, so it wasn't I wasn't terribly nervous. I thought, I throw me in the middle of the ocean, I can swim. Yeah.
So something I didn't realize though, like, again, going back to these new episodes, and you guys bring it up a lot, is you guys were like 3-4 months living together,
3 months. 13.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, that's a long time.
I would say that, it's interesting as well. Most of us had a second place. Okay. I had my house in New Jersey. Kevin had a place in Brooklyn. Okay. Or maybe it was Jersey. I'm not sure. I know Heather had a place in New Jersey. Norman had a place in Brooklyn. I believe Becky had a place. Julie was really the only one that did not have a separate bedroom somewhere in the New York area. She literally was the only person that, was there all 13 weeks every day, even on the days that we weren't filming, because back then filming was very different than what certainly than what it was when we just did this Homecoming series. And what I understand, the later seasons of Real World became a much more 24/7 filming situation. We had a very easy schedule. It was about 80 hours a week, and they would post the schedule, the itinerary for the week, and we knew what days were going to be dark, where the lights, none of the crew was there, lights were out. So if I knew that Monday and Tuesday were dark, I would either not show up and go live in my my place in Jersey, or I'd be there and just know that the filming wasn't going to be taking place, and it was so it was a little different. That it became. And that 80 hours went by pretty quick. You're looking at about 4 days a week, because they would be there for between 12 and 14, 15 hour shifts.
That's interesting, because I mean, that shows you right there. Like, I mean, you guys are the true OG originators of this whole reality world thing, and
it's our fault.
It's your, we're going to talk about that too. So, but it really is, like, at that point, you can tell just by you saying that really nobody had an idea, like, what was upon them.
Yeah, no, it was, it was a mystery.
Yeah.
And when we did watch, so we finally did get to see the footage. We saw the first episode during our last week of filming.
Okay.
During week 13, they showed us episode 1. And that was a crazy experience. Because on one hand, I saw how stylish it was and how slick the editing was and everything. But on the other hand, part of me was filled with anxiety and I was very worried because I realized this is not a documentary. It's edited more like a soap opera, and it's not going to always represent things as I saw them, but as more of a story that they want to tell. And that's just my own ignorance to, how at the time, how TV worked. And, I was 21 and had no idea. So I also realized the detrimental effect that it could have on my band at that moment that I'd never even considered. So it was a bittersweet moment when we did finally see the first episode.
Okay, well, how about that then? Take it a step further. So the first episode then airs. Your family sees it, your friend sees it, your band sees it. What is the reaction?
Very mixed reaction. The band all saw the same inherent problems that I did, and started to worry about the reaction and being so closely associated with something that was kind of at the time. I mean, the climate at the time was so different.
Sure.
1992. Bands like Nirvana were at the top of their game, and Nirvana was very anti-corporate. They were very punk rock, and there was nothing cool about being so closely associated with a fluffy TV show on MTV. And we got a bit of a backlash. We felt that backlash, and it stung, especially from the business. We were seen as usurpers, and we were definitely seen as people that went around the normal channels and did not go through surpassed the normal gatekeepers.
Right.
And these gatekeepers take their positions very seriously, and they do not take that kind of thing lightly. So it was, we definitely felt a lot of that backlash. And maybe even some of it was self-imposed. Some of that we were feeling perhaps a little too, maybe we were too sensitive about it. And then the climate changed. Now people give away that stuff on a whim. I mean, people are, everyone's got their own channel on YouTube and TikTok and everything. It's just, it's so strange how the climate is so much more accepting of that now, whereas when I did it, it was not the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's still so weird to see. And actually, again, last night, 3, 4 o'clock this morning, as we're laying in bed watching this, like I turned to my fiance and I said, "Where did the 30 years go? Like, where did it go?" Like, I can still remember sitting on my couch watching it, and having those mixed emotions at first early on, but then MTV started playing it constantly and more, and just getting so sucked into it, and then getting like jealous, like, because I'm the rocker, I wanted to be Andre. You know what I mean? Like, where's my little piece? Let me get in on this craziness and fun. And
well, yeah, I mean, I certainly experienced some of that as well. A lot of people that were very, and that's kind of the nature of it. I think that that with any with any modicum of success, you're going to experience some of that backlash from people that either don't understand it or don't want to know about it. It's just,
Right.
the rock scene, it has that kind of inherently in it. It's baked in the cake. There's a certain percentage of that that's just you're going to get. And I think that, to borrow a phrase from today, a lot of haters. I'm not calling you that, of course, but there's, that's there was that sense
Sure.
quite a bit back then. And you mentioned, where did those 30 years go? Well, I live in LA where every day is the same. So, and I've been here 25 years. So yeah, I know that emotion. Where does that time go? Because literally, when there are no seasons to mark the change of time, and literally every day is the same for the last 25 years, for all intents and purposes, that time does go by fast like that, and before you know it, 30 years is gone. So where does it go? I don't know.
So how about that? You kind of touched on it a little bit already. Did you almost get like and not just you, but almost kind of the cast, from what it sounded like, it's teased a little bit throughout the story so far in the first few episodes, like almost like you guys were trying to get, each individual entertainment aspiration that you've had were almost kind of like blackballed in a sense, except for Eric, who kind of broke through. But
yeah, well, it's funny, and I don't want to, I have my own thoughts about that. I wouldn't say that we were blackballed or blacklisted, but maybe a little bit. And I do think that certainly in the music business did not take kindly to, or certainly the rock world did not take kindly to what we were doing, and maybe we just weren't very good. I don't know, they did react negatively to what we were doing, and our methods
right.
of getting attention. It's a weird thing. I want to feel like that everything is based on merit. And I shouldn't say maybe we weren't good, because we were good. I'm certainly proud of most of what we did and we released, but it's a weird thing, man. It's having that kind of attention and never being able to live up to it, given your own music, your own endeavor on your own time, not being able to live up to that kind of attention. People look at you like, oh, you didn't make it, or something like snarky like that. It's like, it's kind of silly, because it's just, I don't think anybody can really live up to that level of attention that
Did you feel that way yourself, though? Like when things started to really blow up for the show, and I mean, you guys were like starting to get recognized and things like that. Did you feel that pressure now for you and your band to really blow up?
Well, we did not really play our cards very well. We turned down our major label offers and wanted to. We were DIY before DIY was really cool, and we thought that was just the way to go. But what we weren't realizing was the legitimacy that a major label offered and brought to the table, and as well as the things that only a major label can provide: distribution, and connections in just in dealing with touring and money, for that matter.
Sure.
We were not as savvy as we should have been, and we tried to get that way, We did, sign a major publishing deal. But by then, we were we were moving in opposite directions internally. And in order for a DIY situation to have worked, everyone would have had to have been very single-minded, very focused. And we were internally breaking up at that time, so it didn't last.
Gotcha. Okay, so going back to the show and the house originally, who do you think was like your best friend in the house initially?
Oh, I would say that I got along. Sorry. I got along with, I would say, Heather, Norman, and Julie the best while I was living in the loft. And subsequently, I've had wonderful experiences with all of them. As I mentioned, I live in Los Angeles. It's very much a destination. Everyone makes it out to LA sooner or later. And when they do, we meet for dinner, we meet for cocktails, we meet for coffee or whatever. I have them over at the house. And I travel for work as well. I work in music publishing. So I go to New York and I call Kevin, I call Heather, and I see them frequently as well. We've all kept in touch over the years. And I've the relationships that we had in the loft have only grown, for that matter, and flourished over the years.
It truly seems like the relationships built in that with you guys in that season. It's kind of like almost to a friendships going back to like a grade school where true friendship bonds are formed. You know what I mean? Like that you might have those handful of people through your life that you still remain in contact with from grade school. It seems like those were some serious bonds that were formed with you guys.
Well, we went through a lot together. I mean, we were part of something that was very unique, very special. And we saw something that we helped create become a monster. So we could commiserate on a lot of those points. We could certainly gripe about how, we weren't compensated as well as we wanted to be. And we just had a lot in common, given the uniqueness of the experience and the fact that there was only the seven of us that could really speak to it. Right. We were in a extremely unique and insular place where we could only console each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, how about that? Like, so the show does blow up to probably everybody's surprise in the industry and outside the industry. It blows up, becomes this true thing to change television. In reality, it changes TV and
pop culture, everything.
Yeah, pop culture, everything. And you guys are on the ground floor. You're the originators. How does your life change from once that starts airing so much and things start coming through? I mean, and I've said this before with my own experiences in the entertainment industry with pro wrestling and stuff like that. TV is such a medium where you realize, like in the music industry, music's one thing, the radio is one thing, but being seen on television is truly a whole nother level.
Absolutely. And to break in on that level.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's a I don't know if I can say this on the air. It's a mind fuck. It's a mind fuck. But you were asking, the question was
how did your life change?
How did my life change? That's right. Well, I made it a point to not let my life change, and it was probably an unwise decision. I should have I should have taken more of the opportunities that came to me because of the show. I turned down a lot more opportunities because I just wanted to be, I wanted to make it in music and not pursue other creative endeavors, and that was probably a mistake. I'm sure I could have enjoyed a lot of the opportunities that came my way that I didn't pursue. One that comes to mind is when Ridley Scott's office called me to, participate in. I'm sure it would have just been, casting or something, but that could have opened up, enormous opportunities that I just turned down cold. No thanks. When Tom Freston asked me to at a party, Tom Freston was the head of Viacom.
Okay.
When he asked me if I wanted to be a VJ, no thanks, turned it down cold.
Wow.
And it was a lot of things like that I just was like, nah, not wise. Not the and who knows, I may not have I'm had I just been a little more open to it, um even if I didn't actually do it or get the gig or whatever, it could have certainly opened my eyes to the possibilities, and instead I just shunned them, and that was probably a big mistake. But to answer your question, how did it change my life? Well, it didn't. I made it a point to not change my life, and that was probably not the wisest move.
But also too, that was probably hard work in itself to turn. I mean, to turn those down, that that's tougher than accepting them.
Well, I just thought that it was, it was going to be a distraction,
Right.
and I wasn't really thinking of, building my own brand at the time, which I should have been.
Sure. Huh. How about, did you get like you talk about offers like that, but how about like, was there any like popular bands that approached you to maybe fill a role or anything?
Was there any bands? Not really. I mean, we were no, I guess had there been any of that, it would have definitely just wound up. I was pretty serious. The guys that I was in that band with, we all grew up together, so it was a non-starter. It wouldn't have even gotten past the management.
Right.
It wouldn't. We were pretty much together until we weren't.
Okay, so the first season ends. Time is starting to move on, and then all of a sudden, there becomes a season 2 of The Real World.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like the world's revolving around Puck and everybody else in the new season, and you guys are kind of almost forgotten.
Yeah. Well, right.
How much of a mind fuck was that now?
Yeah, that was well, we kind of knew. We knew that was going to be a situation that they were going to film the second season in Los Angeles with a different cast, and we were, some of us, one of us was singled out and made to be very much a mainstay on MTV, and the rest of us were kind of shown the door. So that to me wasn't a big deal because I wasn't interested in being being a host, being a VJ, to being an actor. I wasn't really all that interested at the time. And I just wanted to, be in a band and make records and tour, which is exactly what I did. But I'm sure that, and and as I've just said, I turned down many opportunities that could have changed that. But I get, it's never great to, meet your ex-wife's new husband either, I mean,
True.
so there's always that.
True. So okay, so going back to we touched on it a little bit already, you guys really changed television. Did you guys did you think about this through the years as you're seeing now this whole reality world of television grow and explode? Think to yourself, holy crap, I'm part of the reason this is what it is now. And I'm also, I don't know if you ever thought of this too, I'm also part of the reason MTV doesn't play music anymore.
Well, no. It's funny. I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, why doesn't MTV play music anymore? I'm like, well, I'll tell you why. Because when a song comes on that people don't like, they change the fucking channel. That's why MTV doesn't play music anymore. Has nothing to do with the fact that it does have something to do with the fact that they're favoring more scripted and reality programming, because that keeps the viewer glued to the TV. Like it or not, that keeps the viewer glued to the TV. You put on a song that they don't like, they're going to change the channel. And that's what they did. And that is why MTV stopped playing music. As much as we all wish that it did. I mean, seriously, it's the question that, I can't tell you how many people have angrily, I'm not saying, of course, you, but have come to me and said, why MTV should be playing music and it's your fault and all this shit. And I'm like, no, it's not. I have nothing to do with it. And it's because of you, actually, because you changed the channel when they played Michael Jackson. And had you not, had you just sat there and stuck with it through the songs that you didn't like to get to the ones you did, well, maybe they'd still be playing music.
This is true. So, all right. So let's come back into modern day now. So when are you contacted about doing Homecoming?
This thing came up so quickly. We got notified in December of 2020.
Holy crap.
Yeah. No, it was like December 5th, December 6th.
Wow.
Eric hit us up on our running text thread. We've had a running text thread the last couple of years.
Okay.
Just people sharing kind of like news in their personal lives. And Kevin's got a new book, Heather's got a new show on Sirius XM. And we would notify each other of these things. And on the text thread, Eric said, hey, have you guys gotten a call yet for they want to do a reunion? And they've done reunions before. Mm-hmm. And often they wrangle a bunch of casts from different seasons together and, try to kill a bunch of birds with one stone. And it's never the kind of thing that I really enjoy being a part of. So I was like, it's, and I didn't receive a text, and I've not participated in some of these reunions where they had multiple casts. And at first I thought, well, they're not even going to call me because I've turned these down before.
Right.
If it's a multiple cast thing, I'm not interested for the most part. And that's not really anything against any of the other cast members. I've met many of them and they're lovely people for the most part. But it's more to do with the fact that, I like the people that I shot with, mm-hmm. and we experienced something unique and special. And that's where I like to end it. I mean,
sure.
I'm not, the much larger gathering, it's just not something I really want to perpetuate. Sure. So at first I was like, I don't really think that this is going to be anything. And it's, it's a crazy time, COVID and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So then Kevin texted me and said, no, they just called me and they want all 7 of us and only our cast. And, look out for the call. And as soon as I'm reading this, I get the call from the casting director from Buna Murray, and I was like, okay, well, this is serious. So I'm speaking to the casting director, and they explain the concept, bringing us all together, living in New York, and sort of revisiting what we originally did. And I was like, well, that sounds great. That sounds really cool and very nostalgic, and very much what we originally did, and it deals only with us. And I haven't, seen the group as a group for many years, so of course I would do that, and it sounds like fun. And so, but the negotiations were much longer than I had anticipated, and more complicated. And they expanded the number of. At first, it was just going to be one special. Then it turned into 4. Then it turned into 6, and it became much more complicated. And so I have a 4-year-old daughter. I have a regular job at a music publisher. I'm expected to work all the time, and my wife and I, we have a house to run here, 2 big dogs. I can't just take off on a whim. So it's a lot of planning, a lot of coordination.
Sure.
And as things, started to take shape, I didn't even receive my contract until the day before Christmas Eve. And I didn't, it was during that holiday week that I had to find, my lawyer, an entertainment lawyer, to read through the contract on a very difficult period over the holidays, right. And make sure that some of the sticking points had to be ironed out in the contract. They were using kind of a boilerplate contract at first. That did not sit well. Some of the stipulations about the music that gets played and just did not. I had to have a lot of alterations done to the contract and over a very difficult time. But still, we managed to pull it off. And have the contract signed before the end of the year. I left for New York on January 5th, quarantined for 10 days in New York, and started shooting, I believe, on the 15th of January. Yeah.
And how long did you guys actually shoot for?
A week.
That's what I thought. Okay.
7 days, yeah. And the 7th day got canceled because of a COVID scare in the crew that had someone on the crew side of the house. But it wasn't the actual crew. I think it was a press person. They're very secretive about who's tested positive. Mm-hmm. All the COVID regulations are very strict, and they're having to deal with privilege of knowledge of who's sick and everything. Anyway, someone, I believe a press person, had tested positive and was exposed to the crew, but they're only about one thin wall away from us,
right?
And so they canceled the last day of the shoot. But by we woke up at 8. We were supposed to start shooting at 8 a.m. that day, and we got notified, hey, we're clearing out, get your bag, we're moving into a hotel, and we're going to stay at a hotel tonight. But then that last day we did go back for a couple of hours when I think it was even a false positive. I think it turned it because we were all being COVID tested daily, sometimes twice a day.
Wow.
And I think that what happened was that was a false positive,
Mm.
but the regulations insisted that we clear out, and then they had a crew come in and completely disinfect the entire loft, 4,000 square foot loft. It had to be professionally disinfected. And I mean, it was just crazy, you know. So we ended up only shooting for 6 of those days in the loft, and then the 7th day got sort of cut into a couple of, it was the evening of that night, and then the next day we did some other things in the daytime. But it was that last day was kind of dragged out. I ended up having to extend my trip slightly to accommodate the additional shooting that was required just to get the final shots of us
Wow.
moving out and everything, because we had to clear out pretty quickly.
Wow. What was like when things really started coming together in the initial contact? What was your initial thoughts? Like, I don't know if I want to do this again, or like, yeah, this would be kind of cool.
Well, no, I mean, I was interested in doing it when I found out what the actual plan was. I wasn't terribly excited about it before I learned that it was going to be just our cast and that they were going to be shooting in New York.
Right.
And you know, and then the the episode count got doubled and then tripled.
Mm.
So it was it was definitely a process. But I think I was certainly, when I learned about what the concept was, I was on board.
Now, how many episodes will there be?
I believe 6.
Okay. Cool. Now, how about did they tell you guys it was going to be at the original loft, or?
No, they didn't. They kept that secret until the actual day that we moved in to that loft. I mean, it was all very hush hush. You know, we weren't even allowed to see each other while we were in quarantine.
Oh, nice.
Before we started shooting, they had us in 7 separate hotels all around New York, where we were each quarantining separately, and so yeah, when they dropped us off at the loft, immediately I knew where I was, at Prince and Broadway. And I mean, I've been there a bunch of times since then. So I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I can't believe they got the actual loft, and here we are. This is great. And of course, it just added to the nostalgia of it all, and the specialness of it. I mean, it added to it, and it was, great to be able to do the show in the original space.
It does truly add so much to it. It's truly amazing. Like, if people have not seen it,
and that's the reason why they had to why that everything had to happen so quickly. There was just a very short window when the previous owner left and the new owner was going to take occupancy. There was this 3-week window where they could do this, and that's it. There was no pushing it. Had something happened in the negotiations, had something happened in production, had something happened that derailed it, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. They would have not shot the show.
It's truly see, something like when you're saying that tells me like this was truly meant to be. This was meant to happen. This whole thing.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I definitely think it's the right time for Gen X to be reflective of what we've all gone through, and certainly these last 4 years have been pretty crazy politically, and we've seen some pretty low lows and some crazy times with COVID and everything. So it's a nice way to touch on, because the early '90s, when we shot the original show, that was another transitional, crazy period that could have gone either way. And luckily for us, we experienced a very prosperous period through the '90s, but it wasn't guaranteed that that's how that was going to go.
Right.
And we were at an equally unsure moment this year as well. So there were some interesting parallels that that made this all the more interesting.
It's funny you use the word parallel, because I think last night's the new episode that came out last night, and even last week's episode, you can see the parallels are still there from 30 years ago to today in the conversations you guys are having. And it's it's so scary and eye-opening at the same time.
Yeah, it's sad to know that some things have changed and some things have not.
Yeah, you can really, it's out of any of the cast too, I think you could see it most on your face when they pan to you. You had this facial reaction, just it says it all on your face.
Well, I like to think that I've got a better poker face than that, but maybe not, huh? I guess I shouldn't go to Vegas.
It kind of says I've been here before.
Yeah. Well, like I'm sure I'm wearing my reaction genuinely.
And I can't seriously praise you and the rest of the cast enough for what you guys did originally and what you guys are doing now. It has seriously, it has meant so much to me, even more now, being able, because honestly, like, after all these years, like, it's kind of been in the past. You kind of totally forgotten about it. And now that it's come back, it's like, oh my God. And you see how truly important it was in your life then, and watching it now, it's like, as a 50-year-old person, like, it's important now to see it again, and to see the growth of everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the reaction's been wonderful, I must say. I'm thrilled to know how it's very special to me. These 7 people are all very special to me. We are a family. And family is bizarre, no matter whose family you're talking about. Everyone's
Absolutely.
family has some crazy, bizarre characters in it, and we are certainly no exception to that rule. Our family is bizarre, and and it's nice to be thought of so well, and to know that people are genuinely interested in what we've been doing and what we're doing now. It's been a pleasant experience as far as seeing the reactions of people and hearing how they are still interested, and they like what they see, which is nice as well.
Absolutely. So, all right. So, catch us up. Like, we have 29 years to catch up on. Catch us up. Like, so the original series ends. You had the band Rain Dance going on. As a matter of fact, when I started posting that you were going to be on the show tonight, like, I'm originally from Philly. One of my friends from Philly was like, "Oh my God, I saw him play in Philly back in the day." Sure.
Our record label was outside of New Hope, Pennsylvania,
okay.
And we would play New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York, regularly. We were, we lived in New Jersey, so we were very much, East Coast based band for a long time. Band broke up in '97 after 3 albums, and I moved to Los Angeles that same year. I stopped playing rock music shortly thereafter, and started playing acoustic folk music, much through my appreciation of Bob Dylan and songwriters of that ilk. I just really got into that whole thing. It opened my musical tastes, to a whole new world. And at the time, rock just wasn't doing it for me, especially heavy rock. It moved into an area that I wasn't particularly fond of, and I moved away from rock for a long time, and got into folk and bluegrass. Frankly, I learned how to play the banjo, and I had a folk band that I was creating with for about 15 years exclusively. Oh, wow. That's all I was doing. I released 5 records with that band, and none of which were particularly successful here in LA. It's definitely not the country music mainstay. I mean, I should have, had I known that I was going to move into that area, I probably would have moved to Austin, Texas, or Nashville, or somewhere.
That's where I'm at. Come on down.
But yeah, and I got out of it right around the time that the new folk revival started. So I kind of missed out on all of the popularity of the entire genre. But that's okay, because really what happened was I just coincidentally wrote some songs that could only be interpreted as rock songs. I wanted to flesh them out, so I put a band together, a rock band, and I just remembered how much I missed it. Honestly, it's I got a chance to sing and arrange that I kind of wasn't really doing. I mean, as I grew up with rock music. I mean, that's, sure. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and Detroit has a rich history of rock music. And I sing. I can bring it in the rock world. I don't mind saying it. I can. I have a vocal range that I wasn't using in the folk world, and I've got great guitars and great amps and all this stuff. I hadn't even cracked open the case of my Les Paul for years. Ooh. And it was sad. So I was kind of thrilled to be making that kind of music again. And one thing led to another. 4 songs became 8 songs rather quickly. And we recorded them really fast. My drummer is my producer, and Darren owns a recording studio here in LA. And we had some friends that passed our songs around to some of the business folks, and got such a great reaction. We signed to a rock label, David Ellefson of Megadeth's rock label. Okay. Yeah. And they were super excited about it. And, I hadn't gotten that kind of, sort of that kind of attention. As I mentioned, LA is not a hub for roots and Americana, which was the music I was creating for many years. So it fell upon deaf ears for a long time. And to get this kind of attention, well, I just, you gotta go where the love is. And, sure. And so we just continued and put out the album in 2020. It got a great reaction, got great reviews, got good play on rock radio in many red states, where rock is still sort of a mainstay. But then COVID kind of dashed all the touring that we were planning on doing to support the album. So we just went right back into the studio and started working on the follow-up. and it was about, that was in October when we started working on the new album. And in December, I got the notice about the reunion. And they were all so excited that I was making rock music and that I grew my hair out again, because it really fit my character that,
Right.
from back in the day. And it made me just realize, well, I need to put more into, because I was just going to take my time recording this next record, and I wasn't really planning on not rushing it, but burning the midnight oil to get it done. But that's exactly what we did, and we really did, put the pedal to the metal, and recorded this new record in record time. And as a result, we have a new single coming out in less than 2 weeks. It's called Clean Break, and it's awesome, and I'm excited about it. And I'll be playing. Actually, I have some tour dates coming up in May and in April. Red States, here I come. And it's exciting. It's just it's been a crazy whirlwind. Wasn't expecting it, but here I am.
Do you feel like you're back being 21, 22 years old again with all this stuff happening all over again?
No. I mean, I'm well aware of so many things have in my personal life have changed. I'm married. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and so real responsibilities, a house, dogs. Here's my dog right here. Actually, he's taking a leak. Dogs. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's so no, I'm well aware of my age, and I'm pretty happy with it. I don't need to act like I'm 20. I wear this gray hair with pride.
Believe me, I feel you.
Yeah, I know. It's I think the line in Indiana Jones, it's not the years, it's the mileage.
There you go. Now, how about that? Like, so when this whole thing starts coming back up again with the homecoming, and you have to approach your wife with this, like, I might be going back to do this all over again.
Well, it's crazy. She never even saw it. She's 11 years younger than me. She knew that I was on it, and she's seen clips of it, but she was very much too young to really be a part of it when it originally aired. And for the longest time, I didn't acknowledge it. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't really a part. I didn't participate in many of the subsequent reunions or any of the functions that they would throw. I just wasn't interested. So I didn't really, I didn't play those reindeer games. And when they came to us with the offer, I said, I want to watch this. I need to reacclimate myself to what we actually did, and I want to make sure that And so it was my wife and I that we sat and watched the whole thing. We binged on it from beginning to end, and as a result, I was so pleasantly surprised by what we were actually doing, as opposed to what my perception was. Because I'd let the what happened after me color that perception in a negative way.
Was there anything when watching that back? Was there anything that made you cringe?
Of course, mostly my fashions. I'm sure there were plenty of things that I said and did that I was like, But yeah, no. More than anything else, it was what the fuck am I wearing? You know, it was definitely that kind of like, okay, don't mind the fact that you're on camera. Wear the ugliest clothes you can find, dirty clothes, just out of the dirty clothes hamper, and perpetuate that look for the rest of your life. Nice way to go there. You know, not the smartest move I ever made.
I think it was
Fashions are always the thing that people just cringe about when they see old pictures of themselves, and you know, they always look at that and go, what am I wearing? Well, in this case, it was definitely a what am I wearing moment.
I think it was Kevin who said it was either on last night's episode or last week's episode. And I think he summed it up best where he says, you know, we did something 30 years ago that we filmed for TV. How did we not think it was going to come back to kind of bite us in the ass and show us, you know, what we did?
Yeah, well, it's I think that hindsight is 2020, and at the time, none of us, and I can none. I mean, Eric thought it was going to be huge, and was right. But I think that, you know, he was also betting on his own star power to help propel that sort of perception. None of us thought that it was going to be, I should say that all of us thought it was probably going to air once or twice and never be heard from or seen again.
Right.
Just like every other show on MTV at that time, because that's what it was. You know, I mean, do you remember the show Remote Control, the game show that they had?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Did you ever see any of those episodes ever again?
No.
Exactly.
No.
So why would we think anything different from our show?
Yeah.
But yet it's been played and replayed and marathoned and moved to this network and then that network. And for the last 30 years, I mean, sure, there have been times that it didn't get aired, and there have been years even that, you know, that it hasn't been focused on. But, you know, it's been I know, you know, because I'm told, you know, I get, you know, often on social media, or I'll hear from someone in Australia, hey, your show's on, you know, such and such network in Australia, in New Zealand, in this place or that place. And it's like, what, why? Like, what, you know, what? It's just crazy. But, you know, it's interesting. And I get it, because having watched it for the first time in so long, it's pretty substantive. We were having interesting conversations about real issues, and we did real consequential actions. We went to political rallies. We went to marches in Washington. We were not just, you know, getting drunk and vomiting on each other. You know, I mean, that's just not, and that's what kind of, you know, the whole thing kind of turned into, which is what I kind of, you know, walked away from it thinking, well, that's, you know, that's what everyone thinks we did. And so it really did, you know, affect my own memory of it.
I think like what you just said is so true. It really was. I mean, the title is just so perfect, Real World, because there was so many true, real conversations, and a lot of the conversations, like I like, again, going back to like last night's episode, laying in bed, I was saying, like, I remember, you know, like the things that happened on last night's episode and original episodes. So much of the stuff with Kevin, I just remember thinking to myself, oh, here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again. But I said last night, I was like, you know, it's 30 years later and it's still going again. Like, I'm looking at it now, I'm like, Kevin was right. Like,
certainly.
He was certainly right.
I said it to him in no uncertain terms. Hey man, you were right.
Yeah.
You know, you're what we were kind of pushing back against way back when, we were, you know, just ignorant.
Yeah.
Straight up. We just didn't know. We just didn't know. And it wasn't until You know, we've seen time and time again these injustices. The George Floyd's, the Breonna Taylor's, all of these incidences of terrible injustices that go on, and it's horrendous. And we, Kevin, I'm so thankful that Kevin and I have had so many sort of experiences after Real World, where we were just hanging out. I most recently, my company had a holiday party in Manhattan where we had a reimagining of Eric B. and Rakim's "Follow the Leader" album performed at the party, and I invited Kevin because I know that he's a big Eric B. and Rakim fan, it was just so great to be able to see him. And this is like 2019. And we've had so many chances to bond, other than just going down memory lane.
Right.
When I do go down memory lane with him, it's like I just can't help but admit my own fault in not recognizing. But how could you know until you actually see it, and even when you do see it, it's hard to even fucking believe what you're seeing, because it's so unbelievable. The injustices in this world. It's awful.
It's true. It's absolutely true. So, Andre, dude, I can't thank you enough for doing this. This has been a hell of a conversation. Thank you for leaving a mark on my life 30 years ago and retouching that mark again today. It's been amazing.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's it's been a lot of fun, and it was a good conversation.
Thanks, man. Now, where should we send everybody to keep up to date with you, the music?
AndreComeauMusic.com, and we'll be posting our tour dates there. The new album Clean Break will be out in April, and the single comes out in I think 10 days. It's you can also, if you want, you can download our most recent record, Wrong Within. It's, by the way, it's my name. Andre Comeau is the name of the band. And you can hear the most recent album that came out in 2020, called Wrong Within. Multiple songs have been featured on this season of Real World Homecoming. Just last night, or today's episode had a track called Out of Control. The song Firebird was featured on the first episode.
That's my favorite.
And there's a lot of cool stuff on that one. The new album is smoking. It's I'm so excited to get it out there, and we'll be playing your town very soon.
Come to Nashville, man. Let's have some drinks. Let's rock out, and let's get some food.
Will do.
Awesome. And everybody, Paramount Plus, Real World Homecoming, you must see it because it's so eye-opening, and it's more than a trip down memory lane. It's amazing.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Andre. Take care, man.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.